Right. Hi, everyone. Good evening. I'm Janely, Community Building Officer at Uplifters. We are a nonprofit organization empowering underprivileged communities with online education and peer support. And we offer a free online education course. We offer a free online money management and personal growth course for domestic workers. And you just need to click send message on our Facebook page to enroll or look for us on Facebook Messenger at Uplifters Community. And this is the 12th episode of our Uplift Your Night Facebook Live series. And we are delighted to be here with you tonight. And thank you so much for joining me tonight. And our first objective with this Uplift Your Night Facebook Live is to be there with you. And Uplifters is first and foremost a community. And secondly, we want to keep learning together and support each other. And this month's theme is Good Communication Matters. We are going to talk about intercultural communication, specifically referring to communication between people from two different cultures. And as migrants, it is key to adapting to other cultures, either the culture of the country you are working in or the culture of the people we are working for, and even the culture of our peers coming from other countries. And we are very happy to have Devi Nobianti and Maylene Mylas to discuss this important topic with us. Hi, Devi, and hi, Maylene. Good evening.
Hello, good
And
evening, Jenny. Hi, good
Good
evening,
evening,
Debbie.
Shelley and Mylene.
so much for joining us tonight. And Debbie has been working in Hong Kong for 25 years. And in her entire career in Hong Kong, she has worked in empowering migrant domestic workers. She's now working as an equal opportunities officer with the Equal Opportunities Commission in Hong Kong. And she's passionate about helping people see their full potential beyond their circumstances. And Mylene Myles is one of our Diamond team leaders. Our Diamond team leaders are Uplifters alumni facilitating, volunteering their time to support students throughout their journey. And she has facilitated more than 21 sessions of our 3-week online course, Dare to Dream, on money management and personal growth. So let's get started. And I also encourage all of you who are with us tonight to watching this live. Please ask questions and comments, and we'll do our best to reply to you. Just we'd love to hear from you, and just say hi in the comments. Yeah, and okay, so let's get started. Hi, Devi and Mylene again. Welcome to our live broadcast. And I'm so grateful to have you both joining me tonight. And it's been a long day for you both, and we are so happy. We're just so happy to be here and to discuss this important topic with you both.
Thank
Okay,
you for having
so
me here.
It's a pleasure to be here, Jenny.
thank you so much again. And yeah, so these questions for the two of you, for the both of you, and can you briefly present yourself, your cultural background, and the current environment you live and work in, and what do you like about this mix of cultures?
Mylene, do you want to start?
Ken. Good evening, everyone. I'm Eileen, and I'm working here in Singapore for almost 8 years for the two employer. For now, I'm taking care of a Eurasian family, an old woman, 83 years old, and I'm a Filipino from Mindanao. Um, the being born here in a mixed country is a very good opportunity for me because I learned a lot for their culture. I think
So,
that's
Hmm.
all.
my name is
You,
Devi.
Mylene?
Um, I'm from Indonesia. I live in Hong Kong for 25 years. So, practically, I'm almost equal 25 years in Indonesia and then 25 years in Hong Kong. So, in my current work, I'm always well, not really. So, the only Indonesians in the organization. So, we have about 100 people. So, I'm the only Indonesians in the beginning. I'm the only Indonesians with some. I'm the only non-Chinese speaker with another person, so it's with two people. I have two sons, and they are half Chinese. So I am actually like in constant basis, like my intercultural communication skill is always put on the test. So that's a little bit of introduction from me.
Mhm. Oh, that's interesting. And what do you like? Can you share with us what do you like about this mix of cultures, especially? Yeah, so you mentioned that you've been working in Hong Kong for 25 years, and um, yes, you mentioned about this constant practice in intercultural communication. Can you
Yeah.
tell
So
me about
yeah, I can tell you a little bit about it. So like in the first so when I first joined in, I work as a client advisor, and then I become manager afterwards
that? Mhm,
in Christian Actions Migrant Workers Program.
mhm,
So I think what I learned. So at that time, my boss is a Westerner. So I just try to learn as much as I can from her, because everything is so much different. But the thing is this for me, my point of view is that I will learn from everything and from everyone. So when I go to work and I see people from different culture, I just find it interesting and I want to know everything about it. So I don't see it as um, like how come they're different? Like how can they do that? Oh, that's funny for me. Like, oh, how interesting that they do that.
mhm,
So I approach it with open mind, and I think it's enriched me because um, I'm totally different person when I come to Hong Kong. I was really timid. I'm really afraid. I'm really shy. So actually, with having all this different culture surrounded by people from different cultures, actually, I can say it's actually enriched me and it's actually influenced me to be the person that I am today. So I think it has a lot of like I absorb a lot from my surrounding, and for that I'm grateful that to be able to be in Hong Kong. When in my first job we have Sri Lankan, Filipina, we have British, and then and now at the EOC I have majority Chinese, but I also have Indian colleague, Nepalese, Pakistani, and Filipino as well.
mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah, so it's a very diverse work environment, and
Yes.
yeah, maybe later we can talk more about how it had helped enrich you. I'm
Yes.
curious, and I'm sure our viewers are also curious and would love to know more about how it helped you. And how about you, Mylene? About your cultural background and yeah, the
For her first time when I came here in Singapore, first time, of course, I'm very afraid. And how can I communicate? Especially we don't know our English is different from the Philippines, especially the pronunciation. I always have a difficulties about it. Really, because our my pronunciation is different from them. So sometimes the understanding from pronunciation is very difficult. So sometimes my employer just my employer here. What I did is I spell to them, and then we understand each other. But it's good because I learned a lot. I learned a lot. Especially here in Singapore, they have a multicultural that they have. So we learn a
Mhm,
lot here. And then it's very it's tough for the first time to understand because of different culture. Some cannot speak English also, so sometimes. But it's very good because it's a very good experience, and it's a very good one because I learned a lot how to communicate in a different nationalities also
mhm.
from here in Singapore. Not only from my own employer, but outside also of the community.
Yeah, and you have been working in Singapore for almost 8 years now. Can
Yes.
you tell us about your experience working for employers from different nationalities?
First employer I have Chinese family. They're good also. I'm taking care of an old man until he passed away. Um, the family is very good.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, being a caregiver, we all know is not so easy for everyone. It's not so easy. But one thing we all know is to have a patient for every patient that we have. For my
Mm-hmm.
current employer, they are Eurasian. They speak English. They're very good family. I have a 93 years old, as I said. She's a very good and easy taking care for her.
Mm-hmm.
For communication, I'm there. We're okay. We're okay. But only sometimes the pronunciations that's my problem sometimes. So, but the thing is, I want them because they correct me in my pronunciation. So little by little, I think I learn.
Yeah, and it's not really easy,
Yeah.
right? That's the tricky
Yeah,
part.
it's
But
not so
as long
easy
as we
because
understand each
sometimes,
other.
yeah, yes.
Yeah, so go ahead.
Mhm.
Yeah, go
So,
ahead.
but I'm very thankful because they help me. They help me how
Yeah.
to deal sometimes with the pronunciation and all that.
Mm,
I'm very happy. Mm.
okay. Thank you, Maylene and Devi. And our topic tonight, as I mentioned earlier, is intercultural communication. And what would be your own definition of it, and what does good communication across good cultures should look like to you?
So
Maybe
if
Devi? Yeah.
Yeah, so if I may start, is definition of intercultural communication is actually communication amongst people from a different culture. I think that's the general definitions. But I also like to point out that culture sometimes is it's not about the race. It can be like even people from one race can have a different culture, because culture is actually like a collective way of being or doing something together. So office might have a culture, one family might have a culture that's different from the other families, even though they are like Chinese or they are Indonesian, they are Westerner. So that's that. So what does good communication across culture should look like? I think it should be respectful, because people people have their own opinion on things, and I think number one have to be respectful. Number two is free from biases, because if we already have biases or assumptions, then we cannot communicate openly.
Mhm.
And also, if we are being open-minded, because let's say if we are communicating with children, for instance, automatically we are speaking maybe slower, we are choosing very simple words,
Mhm.
so that the essence of what we are trying to communicate will be understood by the other party. So similarly, I think with people from a different culture. So if we notice that probably their English is not very good, or then we can actually adjust ourselves in the way communicating with respect. It's not by mockery, to make sure that we actually can exchange idea, which is what it's the communication in the first place. So that's what for me.
Mhm. And how about you, Mylene? Thank you,
Uh,
Devi.
for me, for me, the communications is refer to the communication between the two people. It's like
Mhm.
David said. It's not only for intercultural, but it's a good communication for every culture. It's a very important because we need to understand each other.
Mhm.
We have to respect and all that. Uh, being a good communication is what they call this one. We need to be uh, uh, to speak very clearly to the one person so that they can understand us also. So we need to learn an intercultural. We have to learn their dialect or their languages so that we can. We have to know their how so that it's easy for us to communicate also.
Mhm. Oh, Thank you, Maylene. And to provide more examples, can you please feel free to also share with us some examples of the best intercultural communication you personally experienced or witnessed? Like, for example, Devi, you mentioned about um, being open-minded and just being curious, and I like what you said about having the uh, looking at it as interesting instead of feeling that it's strange or having negative
Yeah.
connotations. Yeah. So can you give us more examples of the best
Um, the
intercultural
best
communication?
the best one.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know whether this is the best example, but
Mhm.
let's say like I do like if I met people from a different culture and let's say uh, like they show something that I never seen before. I think one of my
Mhm.
friend from um, Iran asked me like, hey, do you want to do you want to try this? This is chicken marinade in yogurt. And like in my head, like chicken marinade in yogurt, I never heard about that, like for grill. But I thought like, hey, you know what, like maybe this is good, maybe this is something that I never tried before. So so I said like, oh, that's interesting. So what else do you marinate in yogurt? Like, even though my head's like, chicken marinade in yogurt, like, so interesting. So what else do that you can cook in and marinate in yogurt? And then she says, la 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 la. So and then she said, do you want to try? I said like, yeah, of course, yeah, let me try. So so then I try and tastes good. So I am not jumping into conclusion and says like, oh my god, that's that sounds really really bad. And the same thing, I mean, food, like we are from Indonesia, for instance, like when we eat avocado, we actually make it juice with lots of like condensed milk and sweet. So it's only when I
Oh,
come to Hong Kong I
cool.
realize that Western people, they eat it in the salad, they eat it just like it is, they make it jam. And then in the beginning I was like, oh really, like, but then and I said to myself like, okay, don't judge it before you try it, right? Like, and people says like, yeah, try, good. So cultural communication can be over food, can be sometimes also about religion as well, right? So for me, I think in when Paris bombing, or like sometimes people or if I say something about um, people with hijab, because for me that's a choice, like a woman can choose to wear hijab or not. But then some people might say it's like, oh, it's sign of oppressions, blah 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 blah. So instead of saying like, hey, what do you know about my religions, blah 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 blah, I normally ask like, what make you say like that? Like, have you actually um, have you actually do your research? Do you actually know whether this particular person it's actually being forced to wear hijab? So then then I just ask more questions, and sometimes this person come to realization, oh yeah, that's true, I'm just generalizing it. But sometimes then they not agree with me, and they keep like bombarding, like, and then I normally says, okay, fine, then so it means we agree to disagree, maybe we have a different way of seeing things, and then we just leave it like that. So I think in a cultural in intercultural communications, I think we have to understand that people might be different, ethnicity, different way of bringing up, like that, the way their parents, they probably insist that they are the one, they opinion must be right. But then for me, it's in my opinion, like, okay, why will I insist on this kind of thing? So I just agree to disagree. So that's probably some of example that I have.
Wow, great examples. And about food, you mentioned about avocado. I think Mylene, we also love avocado with condensed
Yes,
milk,
yes.
right?
It's a very nice a fruit in the Philippines. We always having shake with the ice.
And yeah, I like the your example about food because it's such a great unifier. And when you're open to other cultures, it just you learn more and become more open to. Just makes life more interesting, right? And for
That's
Maylene,
true.
how about you? You've been working in Singapore, and how's adjusting to a new environment been like for
For me, for
Singapore?
adjusting here, especially
Like
the
the
food. First,
cultural aspects.
yeah,
Yes.
especially, uh, yeah. For me here, for the food, the first time, because the employer always asks, did you have any specific food to eat? But for me, no, I'm not very fussy, so that easy for me to adapt their food. That's why my employer told me, "Are you Filipino?" Because most of the Filipinos would eat a hot food, you know. But for me, I like hot food with the chilies and all that. It's
Mm,
it's
yeah.
it's easy to adapt because most of the food also is just like, we have here also in the Singapore and all that regarding food and all that. It's a very good. I can say the food is not that's what we call this one. It's a very good. It's easy to. It's very nice for us to what they call this. It's a very good one. Like it's a very good experience to eat their cuisines and all that for different culture, like from Malay, they have Indians, they have
Mhm.
uh from Eurasian's cuisine, and they have the Chinese. So everything we have to try because we have to experience what they have here while we're working. And for the experience, one thing that I have before was like intercultural. I was out that time and I meet why I was lost. I don't know where to go and I don't know the place where to go. So there's a one old man that I asked that time. He couldn't speak English. So I'm thinking, how can I go through to the place where I go? If this
Mhm.
man cannot answer, where do I go? But one thing is communication also, it's help where he he tried to explain me the place by saying of um sign language, just like telling this way you can go by his own dialect, by his own language. So I
Mhm.
need to understand what it is by using by the sign language. So he taught me. He taught me. So that's all. Sometimes even though the people with some of the or intercultural and in different what do you call it, that people that we we met, some are they cannot speak English, so sometimes we cannot speak their own languages also. But through what do you call it, through to the uh, fi- telling you the expression and all that, so it
Mhm.
might be easy for us to understand also.
Okay. Wow. Thank you, Maylene. So you learn to adapt to it by checking their understanding the nonverbal gestures, nonverbal cues. I think
Yeah.
yeah, that's very important as well. And I think before we proceed to the next question, to our viewers, please feel free to send your questions and your comments. And yeah, just ask your questions, share your experience. And we have one from Marie. So thank you, Marie, for joining us. And yes, this is such an important topic. Thank you. And Marie is Uplifter's founder and CEO. And yeah, good evening, Ms. Devi, T. Almighty, and Jenny Lee Uplifters. Thank you, Lorna. Thank you. And please feel free to share your experience as well about intercultural communication. And we have Rana watching from Singapore. Hello, good evening. And we have Mary Grace. She's also in Singapore. And glad to meet you, Miss Devi and Miss Maylene. And beautiful and inspiring story. And hi, Maria Nemi, good evening. Thank you again, everyone. And I think we have more comments. Okay, so thank you. And I think this next question is for Devi. Devi, what do you think are the problems that can arise when bad intercultural communication happens? And feel free to use examples from your own experience, either in the workplace or in your personal life.
Okay. I think the worst is actually assumptions. I think that's really, really bad. It can also, so if we have an assumptions, if we do not recognize our own bias, I think that's actually, can deter a good intercultural communication. So let's put
Mhm.
it this way. So sometimes we don't, like sometimes we have this unconscious bias, because let's say, oh, I'm Asian, so people who are Westerner or people who are, Caucasians, they probably have a better way, or they are smarter than us, they are, they better than us and things like that. So sometimes when we are communicating um, things that we need to communicate, um, we don't communicate because we just think like, oh, our opinion doesn't really matter because he's the top person, he has the right skin color, he has the right race, right? So this is something that our unconscious bias sometimes play into our communications. And this is something that normally in the workplace, let's say, we don't want to express our opinion because we just conclude that we must be wrong and they must be right. The same thing
Mhm.
if we talk with someone with the assumptions that, oh, I know better. uh, I'm from a certain race and I know better, they come from a different race, they know less, and therefore then we tend to not really listen carefully of what these persons have to say because we just have an assumption that, oh, they come from a lesser status, or they come from the not so smart, so we don't really have to listen to what they want to say, when actually maybe they have a valid point of view, or they might have something important to say. So I think from I think I really like this idea. I think one of the things that we have to recognize is what our assumption towards other party, when before we start communicating, whether we have assumptions like, oh my god, like this must be, and assumptions, like sometimes it's just different look, people wear dress differently, and our
Mhm.
brain just going like da, 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 and then sometimes then it comes to play. So like in my work, I have to work with different people.
Mhm.
In They are migrant workers, they are non-migrant workers, so I am actually know that Filipino, Indonesian, some of them can be migrant workers, some of them can be professional, but some people who are not aware of this, some people, they just assume all Indonesian are migrant workers, all Filipino migrant workers, and then all the stereotype, all the Thai is like this, all that, and it's actually, I think it separate us. People feel like, some people can feel offended because of this assumption. So I think it's really, again, I have to say is that we be minded
Mhm.
and ask questions. Don't be embarrassed like of asking neutral questions, so that we can get to know the people better, and then we can create connections better with the person that we are communicating with. So that's my answer. I hope it's actually answering the question that you actually gave me.
It does. It does. Thank you so much, Devi. And actually we had just recently had a workshop on unconscious biases and yes, assumptions. And thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing your yeah, your tips about being open-minded and don't be afraid to ask questions, and just don't let our assumptions get in the way of effective communication. And Maylene, I'm curious about for you, what makes smooth communication between two different cultures difficult?
Uh, yeah, sometimes we have to. I cannot hear Jen. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. For you, what makes smooth communication between two different cultures difficult? Like, for example, what are the key barriers to effective intercultural communication for you?
Sometimes
Your
the
experience.
topic for us, for my experience, sometimes the thing is, if we cannot understand their culture,
Mhm.
especially if they cannot understand the language because we have differences. For me, we have to observe first. We have to observe, be observant, and we have to slow study the community.
Mhm.
And if we cannot understand anything, especially to our employer, we have to ask. All my employers
Mhm.
said, they always tell me, if you don't know anything, uh, don't hesitate to ask, so that you will know what the thing that you wanted to know. This always told me. So it's easy for us to understand the culture if we have to observe, we have to study the culture, we have to understand the culture of the community we're living in. I think that's the most important, so that we are easy to understand the community, we are easy to adapt the community where we are living for now, our host
Mhm.
country. I
Can I
Yeah.
think that's
add to that,
so.
please?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes,
I
please, Debbie. Go ahead.
remember I remember when first time I moved to Hong Kong, like my son cried
Mhm.
like and asked like why everyone angry at daddy? Because like everyone speak loudly. In Indonesia we speak quite like low tone and softly, and in Hong Kong people speak loud. And I think this is one of the, like one of the cultural shocks that my kids and I experience. Like, you say angry, so that's why I think what my Maylene says is actually very important. So like when you ask and you learn about a little bit about the background, and you understand that like, oh no, these people who are angry at us, they just, the way they just speak loud, like, so you can put into context. But otherwise it's very easy for us to feel like, oh my god, are they screaming? And also like in let's say in when we are in go to Chachantang in the beginning 25 years ago, so it's like the plate is almost like flying, there's really quickly. So um so yeah, I mean, this is non-verbal communications, like, flying. And I was just like, why they have worked so hard, like why it's so. And then like someone have to explain to me like,
Mhm.
yeah, in Hong Kong is everything is very expensive, so they need to, the rent is very high, so they need you to eat quickly and leave quickly so new person can come in. So yeah,
Mhm.
all these things is actually like learning, getting to know a little bit of culture, then give you a context, so then so we don't take it personally, because
Yeah.
sometimes it's not personal, it's just the way things are. Yeah, I agree with Maylene.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much, both of you. And it's very right because, when we have this, when we take things personally, like what you said, Debbie, it will get in the way of us, having enjoying the moment, or like if you felt that, oh, that was so rude, but then it really isn't.
Yeah.
So it will prevent you from just having a better interaction with the people around you. And it's like what you said, don't try to avoid having assumptions. And as Megan said, just ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask. So thank you. And I think for Devi, what are the things we must be aware of in order to effectively communicate with people of other cultures?
So for me is I think number one, again, like our biases toward this person. Do we have any biases? So that's number one. Number two is also I feel like we have to be aware of body language as well, because like even though even though we think it's okay to ask, like some questions might be uncomfortable, but if we are fully present and we are aware of our body language and their body language, then um, we can actually like getting to know that, oh, okay, maybe this person are not comfortable by me asking it. Maybe culturally this is something that people doesn't talk about, so then you can move on to the next topic. So that's number one: be aware of your own biases, be aware, be present, and notice the body language. um, and then number three is again like of course be curious, because and agree to disagree. So be curious of like what they say, even though something that especially something that we never heard before. um, and be aware of our body language as well. Like if someone says something and we just like like how we roll our eyes, right? Like so people will know that like so I think be aware of that as well. And yeah, just be curious and be open-minded and ask. And I think people people will see our genuinity or our intention. So like even though you ask some questions, if you are not in a abrasive way and you ask with respectful way, people will be more happy to answer. And so that's what my take on these questions.
Thank you. And can you, of course, of course it is. Thank you, Debbie. And can you expound more on what when about agreeing to disagree?
So yeah, sometimes when we talk about, culture, let's say, Indonesian, we not supposed to give things with left hands. I think this based on a Muslim upbringing. So everything when you give people, you have
Mm-hmm.
to give with the right hand. And and if I use left hand, sometimes I have to apologize. So like, oh, apologize left hand. If you have something, a lot of things on my right hand. Um, so sometimes like when we discuss about this, and um, people will say is that, oh, why it's both hand is the same. Why have to be bad hand or left hand, so bad hand or good hands and things like that. So I said like, well, yeah, maybe it's just our custom, because of course if I am in Hong Kong it doesn't really matter, but when I am in go back to Indonesia, then I have to retrain myself again to remember, because that's something that not acceptable in Indonesia. So so
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's easier for me just to keep it. And some people might not agree with my my opinion and things like that, and you just leave it like that. And normally I will say it's like, oh, it's okay, it's okay, maybe yeah, we can have different opinion. Or I'll give you some good examples. So my son is half Chinese, go to Chinese school, so he think he's fully Chinese, so he doesn't feel that he's Indonesians.
Mm-hmm.
And so he is actually not, one time he came home to me and then says like, I don't think God exists, like.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not religious, but I believe in God, so let's say. So like, so I talked to him, and he says, no, I think it's brainstorming, do you see any proof, blah 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 blah. A total rebellion of 13 years old. You might have, if you have children at home, you might experience this kind of conversation. So at the end I said to my son like this, darling, I can see the way you answer me. The way you answer me, I can see that you actually do your homework. You already read a couple of things so that you can come into this opinion. However, I truly believe that God exists. Unfortunately, maybe I could not explain the way that you can understand. So maybe in the future, maybe someone will be able to explain better than I do, so that you
Mm-hmm.
can actually understand where I'm coming from, and you can see my point. So then we leave it like that. And I get the best mom ever. So he said to me, like, Mom, I'm really happy that you are my mom, because we can have all this conversation, and we can have this agreement about things, and we still be okay. At the end, we still be okay, because this is how I live it with him. And he's happy with that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow, thank you for sharing that, Debbie. Yeah, that's that's a very good communication technique or tip. If you say that. As parents. Yes, thank you. And you talked about body language earlier, and I would just like to ask Nailene, how's your experience with regard to observing body language, understanding nonverbal communication, particularly in body language, like
Um,
in face or in in Singapore
yeah. For
in the
me, yeah, the body language is very important also sometimes, especially if the person cannot speak well in English, especially sometimes we mingle other nationalities. They cannot speak English well, and we cannot understand. But through language, we can understand well what they are telling us, what they wanted to tell us, what they wanted to to share with us. So body
Mm,
language is very important for me because it's helped a lot for everybody, especially if we cannot speak English well. At least in that way, we understand each other.
mhm. Yeah. And how did it help you, for example, when you ask questions, and how did it help you in your job or in your everyday interactions with people from different cultures?
Yeah, like example, I ask the way where do I going? Even though the person cannot speak English, where
Mhm,
that way that I need to go through, but through pointing her hands, pointing
mhm,
his fingers or her fingers, they can tell me the place where do I go. At least in that way, they communicate me well. Yeah.
mhm. Yeah. Thank you. And okay, so it's been a great discussion. And to our viewers, please send your questions and share your experience with us. I'm going to just uh, screen some comments. One moment. Yes, so we have one from our team leader, Eileen May. And it's very nice to hear from Miss Devi when we hear something new for us, whether we feel so different and seems strange to us. We need to acknowledge and appreciate and show our interest to learn about it. And from Camille, our head of programs at Uplifters. Thank you, Camille, for joining us. And Camille says, during the pandemic, I found it more difficult to go to people different than me because of social distancing measures. I missed it very much. Exposure to diversity is such a gift in life. Yes, it is. And yeah, from Lawrence, I appreciate and match all the thoughts that have been discussed. I love to share what we need, that we need to really respect the culture where the place we're living in. And if we have chance, consider to learn some language for better communication. And yeah, from Mary Grace, and I think you already answered my curiosity. I love it. Okay, and we have another one from Camille, and you're so right, Maylene. Observing is very important. It's all about being curious. Yes. So, yeah, being curious and being open minded and just having that interest in learning other people's cultures will really help us a lot. And I think my next question is again for the both of you. And what else than communication do you think is important when adapting to another culture? Mylene?
For me, for adopting for the culture, we're always mingling a different nationality, especially here in Singapore. Uh, like Davis said that we have Indonesian, Myanmar, Indian, Malay, Chinese, Eurasian, Filipinos, and some others that Thai people also have. One thing that I wanted to say is we have to be careful for every words that we come out to our mouth sometimes so that we cannot hurt people. We have to respect their culture, whatever it is,
Mhm.
whatever culture that they have, whatever nationality they have, we have to respect them then so that we can earn respect also from them.
Mhm.
And that's all I think. Yeah, the respect is very important for every culture and every nationality we have to mingle to each other. We have to respect. That is the very important, I think, for everyone.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Respect should be the foundation of all communication. And thank you, Maylene. And for you, Devi, what do you think is what else in communication is important
I
when
think
adapting to
I
the
agree with
culture?
Mylene. I think you know, apart from communications, respect is very important, and also
Mm.
I think in interactions, like let's say, if we don't expose ourselves, as Mylene says, that you are mingling and things like that. If we don't expose ourselves to people from different culture, then we don't know the different, because we just be happy within our own environment. So I think the more we expose ourselves to people from different culture, the more we know and the way they think. I'm sure there's a couple of things that we can learn from them as well, and also
Mhm.
that's enhance our ability to have intercultural conversations. And because if we actually adopt what Maylin suggests in the beginning, like we are being observing, we observe the way they do things, we understand the culture, we understand the context, the body language,
Mhm.
and things like that, then we are able to make connections better. And I think, and I just want to add something. Sometimes when we talk about integrating, it's not something that actually, we have to integrate. I mean, coming from the EOC, right? Like, sometimes I have to talk to the mainstream community that the importance of cultural intelligence, and
Mhm.
and like I can just assume some people will say it's like, oh, why do I have to be cultural intelligence? Like we are the majority. I just feel like, maybe some people will have that in their head. But the thing is this: if we are culturally competent, if we are being able to communicate and to work with people from different cultures, it's actually give
Mhm.
us personal benefits. So let's say, like um, the reason I get the job from to the EOC is because Fermi Wong, who's a person of Chinese, give me, telling me that, hey, Davy, there's a job at the EOC. I actually didn't see even the advertisement, but then they tell me, she tell me that I have a job, and the reason she told me, that there is a job opening is because I spend, like I travel with her, and the reason I travel with her because we both understand each other quite well. So you never know how things will come to you. But
Mhm.
having no separations in a way that, like, oh, you're that, da, 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 I'm different than you, and things like that. But being able to bridge all these differences by a good intercultural communication based on respect and um, and curiosity and open-minded, I think it can personally enhance our own growth. That's what I think. So yeah.
Mhm. Oh, thanks so much, David. It's a great story, and we can all learn from you both. And it's going back to what you said earlier. It being open to different cultures and to just having that curiosity and interest in other genuine interest in other people's. will lead to an enriching life, and yeah, it surely will enrich your life in so many ways. And also, Maylene, when you talked about just being mingling, yeah, just go out there and mingle with people and yeah, expose yourself to have that exposure to different types of culture, different kinds of people will help you, and it will just help you grow, and you will learn a lot from them. So thank you, Mylene, for that. And yeah, we'll just show one comment from Jaylene. She's our team leader, and Jaylene says it is being self-prepared and not setting expectations over one's culture that can help other than communication. And sometimes our judgments affect good communication because we are not open to new things, new ideas, and new ways, especially when we've been living in the comfort of our own cultures. Wow, that's thank you, Jane. That's very good. And we also have one from Indy, Hunam. And body language for me is very important. It helps a lot because some people can't speak English very well. So where we go and we need some help, they actually help, can talk, but they can help us even just point with their finger. Yeah. Thank you, Indy. Yes, I guess it's not just about, pointing directions when it comes to body language. Yeah, maybe even just a smile. We've been a smile will communicate a lot, right? That's what we've been. That's part of our morning ritual in Uplifters in our Dare to Dream online course. We encourage our students to just start the day with a smile, and
Oh,
yeah,
that's so nice. That's,
yeah,
you know, my mom teach me when I was 16, my mom teach me something really, really fun. So she said to me, like, you should lift your corner of your lips up, half up. So you kind of like half smile, but you don't really smile. And then she says it's good for like against the gravity instead of going this, right? So you have so you have half smile, and people think that you are smiling to them. Like people think like, oh, it's very open person, and people think that you are approachable. So yeah, so from then on, like I try, if I remember, to be, to have the half smile position, just like my mom taught me. Otherwise, I can look very scary actually. Yeah, so I think first day smile. Yeah, I agree. Go for it. Smile,
Yeah,
smile.
yeah, smile
and
is always helping us to start our day, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good ritual to start with a smile. It set your tone of the
mm,
day. Like you're just happy and smile to everyone. Like other people happy too.
yeah, and it will go a long, long way.
Yeah, that's true.
And well, this has been a very uh, productive night, and we've covered a lot of topics. Do you have any advice that you want to share with our community of migrant domestic workers? Maylene, would you like to go ahead first?
Okay. For me, for my fellow domestic workers, uh, first thing that I can say is we have to respect to each other so that the communication, the building up for each other will be smoothly well for everyone.
Mhm.
Um, uh, to avoid conflict to each other. Whatever races, whatever culture you have, whatever nationality we have, the one thing is to understand each other, to communicate well to each other, and respect each other. That's all. That's I can say only.
Mhm. Thank you so much, Maylene. Yeah. And you, Debbie?
So for fellow migrant workers, I understand that life can be challenging because I think
Mhm.
when you are living in someone's house, you kind of like have to follow the employer's culture, like the way they live, the way they eat, that kind of things. So you kind of like have to bend yourself into it. But one thing that I always tell people is that always have a self-awareness, know your worth, because the rest is just working. Like, but then if you know that you are a good person, you know that you are, even with the culture that you don't agree with, because you think blah blah blah, whatever opinion that you have about their culture, your culture, the way they live and things like that. But again, going back, don't take it personally. This is just about work, so it should not affecting your self-worth, your happiness, or don't let get into you. So that's number one. Number two is that if sometimes the employer can be more host country. It can be employer, can be the government, can be the majority. It can be very dominant. They can be a dominant culture, but then you just see it like be open-minded. Maybe there's something that you can learn from it as well. But then don't be embarrassed of having a different culture. So be proud of your culture as well, and at the same time learn from other people as much as you can, and enrich your own culture. So that's what my message. Yeah.
Thank you, Debbie. Yes, we must be proud of our own cultures.
Yes.
Yes, couldn't agree more. And yeah, okay. Yes. And before we end our broadcast, let's do our evening ritual together. It's the evening ritual that we're doing in our free online course, Dare to Dream. Please feel free to share with us what made you happy today, and for the viewers. And also, Debbie and Mylene, can you share with us the three things that made you happy today? Maybe I'll start first. My three joys for today are, of course, having you both for this Uplift Your Night. And it's truly uplifting. Thank you very much for your words of encouragement, your advice, and for sharing your knowledge to us. And I'm really happy and grateful for having you both. Thank you for your time. And second is I had dark chocolate for dinner. That's dark chocolate and ice cream. Yeah, cookies and cream. And third is had a productive day at work. So yes, it's a very good day, and this is a very nice way to end the day. So yeah, would you like to share your ritual? Share rituals. Yeah. Share the three things that made you happy today. Maydeen or Debbie?
I go first, Davy.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. The first thing is uh, to be here with you all. Thank you so much for the privilege and for being a part of Uplifter. Second, I have a talk to my second daughter today, make a joke for me. So it's a very nice day for me. And the thirdly is to reach out the one of my friend that having a problem, at least a little bit. We have a conversation and a little bit advice for her. Yeah, that's all. It's a mix our my day for today.
Thank you, Mylene. And for you, Debbie?
So I'm really happy to have these conversations, and I hope this is something that helpful or contributing to people that watching it. So that's my first happiness today. The second happiness is I thought my camera doesn't work in my laptop, but now I know it's working. Yay! Actually, I have to, I have to this camera because I thought doesn't work, so I buy external one, and now it's actually working. So I'm really happy and grateful for that.
Yes.
Yeah. And the third one is just before this meeting, I actually run, every 2 weeks I run kind of like a meditations things. And I have 18 people in the group online. This is just to gather and because to uplift everyone's spirit because of this COVID-19 pandemic. A lot of people worried about job, worry about money, worry about, like I'm sure you all aware of that. So I feel
Mhm.
by having this group, it's actually we can share the I won't say share the burden, but I hope that it can lift up our spirit and have hope. Like I think that's so meaningful, and actually doing that make me happy.
Oh, wow, it's great to hear. Thank you to you both again. And to our viewers, if you have any more questions, just please feel free to put them in the comments and we will try our best to reply to them, even after this live. So if you have any questions about what we've discussed tonight and about your experience, if you want to share experience, please feel free to do so. So I think it's time to wrap up. And it's been a really great and uplifting night. So thank you, Devi. Thank you, Maylene.
Thank you
Thank you.
also,
Thank
Jenny.
you.
Thank you.
So good night, everybody, and thank you again. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.